Well, good afternoon and welcome to Thinking Tuesday. If it's noon on Tuesday, you know it's time for Thinking Tuesday. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here. For those of you who are returning, thank you for returning. I always look forward to having you here. And those who are coming for the first time, welcome to Thinking Tuesday. This is a time on Tuesday when we just take a little time, a few minutes, just a few minutes out of our long 24 hours to check in with our thinking, to see how it's serving us. Are we thinking thoughts that are moving us forward? Are we harboring thoughts that's keeping us stuck? Are we in a negative thinking cycle that's taking us nowhere but downward or keeping us standing still in the same place? Well, on Thinking Tuesday, we want to help you move forward in your thinking because we do more thinking. I think it's about, 70,000 thoughts a day? Right? And a lot of them are repetitive. So if they're going to be repetitive, let's make sure that they're serving us well, right? Instead of keeping us stuck. So I was thinking many years ago, and I've worked in the field of mental health, personal growth for many years. A little over 40 years, because that's just my passion. And I'm always seeking ways to grow and looking for ways to help others to grow. So many years ago, when I was working in alcoholism services, um, I was introduced to the phrase stinking thinking. It rhymes, right? Stinking thinking. I would hear my patients talk about their stinking thinking as they were trying to make a way to create a better life, a life of sobriety. And so when I attended AA meetings in supporting their journey to sobriety, I would also hear that phrase in the rooms as well. Stinking thinking was an interesting thought to me. And what they were really talking about was the type of thinking, the type of negative thinking, not just thinking, but negative thinking that had kept them stuck in a loop of negative thinking and kept them in a place that made them feel there was no hope. And of course, that triggered more drinking and victimization and all of that negative stuff. Believing that this type of life, that this was the type of life that the only type of life that they would ever have. For instance, what a terrible place to be. And believing that they were unworthy, believing that they could not function without alcohol or whatever other drugs they had grown to be dependent on. And I saw some of the most beautiful transformation in people whose lives had been so difficult. So difficult. Some of them who were homeless, some were jobless, some had lost their families, some had lost their self-respect, their self-confidence, they had lost hope because of their negative, self-limiting, self-flagellating, self-defeating thoughts that had created an emotionally and painful reality for them. That was their reality. But their transformation began when they became aware, that it is their thinking that perpetuated that never-ending cycle of a negative lifestyle. Of course, as they thought negatively, they didn't feel good about themselves. So they would drink to suppress those feelings. And then as the alcohol wore off, or sometimes they didn't even give the alcohol a chance to wear off, they just wanted to maintain that therapeutic level of alcohol in their system that would give them a boost. But that was an artificial boost, if you could call it a boost, because that created other problems. That increased the dependency, because then they were not functioning on their own. They were depending on this external boost to give them an internal boost. And it never happened, not certainly with alcohol. That's when they began to realize that they were creators, when they began to think, examine their thinking. and look at their stinking thinking, as they call it. That's when they realized that they were perpetuating that negative loop, that negative reality that they considered their only reality. That's when they began to realize that they were creators and prisoners of their own stinking thinking. And that needed to be changed if they were going to change their lives. That was the awareness that they needed to begin that transformation. So the first step was to have a desire to change, because they also talked about tired of being tired, they're tired of being the way they were. And it was just an endless negative loop, you know. So the first step was to begin to have a desire to change. And that's when they hit their bottom. That's another phrase that was used, and you've probably heard it as well. Everybody's bottom is different. You have a bottom, I have a bottom. They had their bottom. For some of them, it was losing their family, losing their job, losing their health. Their health was failing. They had cirrhosis of the liver. It was just an increasing number of physical ailments that they had as a result of the alcohol. When they didn't have the alcohol, they got DTs because they began to hallucinate. Alcohol was their gas. Alcohol was their fluid, so to speak. They also experienced alienation of their friends. That's when they realized they hit bottom. There's got to be something better than this. I am just sick and tired of being sick and tired, which was the phrase. So everyone has their bottom, and those were the bottoms that some of them experienced to begin to decide that they need a change. So as difficult as it was to put the bottle down, because that was very difficult also, because when you begin to depend on something for your survival, and you don't want to have those physical reactions that comes with not having that supplement, if you want to call it that, that was their vitamin. So when you don't want to experience the negative consequences that come with less than you need to have in your system to keep you going, it became difficult sometimes. That was a very difficult thing to do, to put the bottle down. But in comparison to putting the bottle down, that was easier than changing your thoughts, changing their thoughts, replacing their stinking thinking with more positive thinking, and then taking the actions that would reinforce that thinking. So as difficult as it was to put the bottle down because of that fear of what would happen with the lack of alcohol in their system, it's their thinking. And even when they put the bottle down, then it became the most challenging part of their recovery, to change their thinking. Because if they did not intentionally guard their thinking, they would invariably return to the old habits. And some of the old habits were, when you tell yourself, oh, I can, they tell you in AA, stay away from people, places, and things that's going to remind you or intrigue you or entice you, I should say, to start drinking again. But they would tell themselves, oh, yes, I can hang out in the bar with my friends. I don't have to drink. They're trying to prove themselves, and we always knew where that led. It led them right back to the drinking, because the thinking was that I can do what I used to do and not be negatively affected. So that was a trap. So the thinking became really the issue, the main issue of maintaining their sobriety and living a life of sobriety and being in long-term recovery. It was a day-by-day thinking. The real transformation came when they realized that their thinking needed to be changed. And with that, they also needed to be in the company with others who were on the same track, on the same path to recovery as theirs, to reinforce, to support each other, to become their accountability partner. They would have a sponsor. So when they're beginning to slide back into that negative space, they would pick up the phone and call the sponsor. And the sponsor was someone who had walked the path and who is still walking the path, because you never stop walking to continue and to enhance your sobriety. So they realized that they needed support to continue that positive thinking. And that would happen in the company of those people. That's why they were asked to go to AA meetings, you know. And so they began to appreciate what it meant, what it felt like to be sober. And that was a great feeling. That was a huge accomplishment for so many of them. I just came to respect so much of them, looking at where they were and where they ended up when they transformed their lives, because they transformed their thinking. They put away the alcohol and they began to think more positively, got rid of that stinking thinking, but always had to be on guard for it because it tends to creep back in sometimes. Okay. So most of you who are listening may not be alcoholics. You may not be alcoholics, but you might know someone who is. But I'm here to tell you that even we who are not alcoholics, we also have stinking thinking. And that is stinking thinking that creates the life that we live. Like I said, we have about 70,000 thoughts a day. And some of those are stinking thinking, stinking thoughts. So when you tell yourself, for instance, that you're not worthy, when you tell yourself that you can't attain the dream that you want, for instance, when you tell yourself that you don't have what it takes, I don't have what it takes to do what that person is doing or to reach that level, when you tell yourself that you don't deserve what you might desire, when you tell yourself you shouldn't dream because dreams never come true, when you tell yourself that you can't rise to the current, above your current circumstances, and also when you tell yourself, for instance, that you shouldn't apply for that position, that promotion, that is stinking thinking. So you don't have to be an alcoholic to have stinking thinking. We all have it in different degrees and at different frequencies, but we all have stinking thinking because our thinking really drives us. That really determines what actions we take. So I'd like you to take a moment right now, take a moment and give some thought to what kind of stinking thinking you are feeding your mind. Right now, just take a moment. Think about what kind of stinking thinking, based on those examples I gave before, and you will have your own. What kind of stinking thinking are you feeding your mind right now? Okay, you can continue, but I hope you've come up with some that you can identify. Because, like I said, we all have them at different times, in different intensities, different frequencies. But now I want you to ask yourself, based on that stinking thinking or that stinking thought that you just identified, how has it been serving you? How has it been serving you? Are you stuck because of it? Are you not dreaming because of it? Are you not stretching yourself because of it? Are you fearful because of that stinking thinking? What has it kept you from achieving? Or what is it keeping you from achieving? That stinking thinking that you just identified, or any other parts of that thinking, stinking thinking that you will identify later. Because you have to be we have to be continue to be vigilant. When you find it also, ask yourself, is this my bottom? Like I said, many of the alcoholics that I worked with, it wasn't until they hit their bottom. And sometimes we help to raise that bottom, because the sooner they can hit their bottom, the sooner the opportunity to begin that transformation. When you feel like it has taken too much from you, the way you think, when you feel that it has deprived you from too much, When you feel that you're not moving in the direction that you want to go, it's too painful. That's your bottom. So ask yourself when you find that stinking thought, your stinking thinking pattern, is this my bottom? Is this important enough for me to change my way of thinking? You should be asking yourself, and put me on the path to do better so that I can be, so that I can do, and so that I can have more. Because that's what your thinking affects. Your becoming, your doing, and your having. It works in the negative and it works in the positive. So think about if that thought that you identified is your bottom. I'm sure you found yourself also repeating a statement such as, it is what it is. Well, do you know that that also is an example of stinking thinking? We hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. It is what it is. And we just kind of brush it off and we move on. But when we utter that statement, whenever we utter that statement, it is what it is. And sometimes we say it jokingly, sometimes we say it with a sign of resignation or frustration. It is what it is, or it is what it is. But whenever we utter that statement, it suggests that we are resigned to accept things as they are. And when we're resigned to accept things as they are, then we don't try. Sometimes we say it without even trying to see if there's another alternative. I find that sometimes we're just too quick. We're just too quick to adopt certain sayings that are trendy without really examining what they mean and what we're speaking into our psyche. We don't have to go with the trend. We should be different. We should think our own thoughts. We should examine things before we adopt them. Just like you go into a store, you want to buy a shirt, a dress, a pair of pants, a pair of shoes. You're not going to take them just because the salesperson tells you, oh, they look, those are nice shoes. You just take them. You're going to try them on. You're going to try them on. You're going to see if they fit, if they're comfortable, if they would look good with the outfits that you have assigned for them, if you're going to feel comfortable walking in them. So don't be too quick to just adopt those trendy sayings such as, it is what it is. Because then you're taking a stance. You're taking a stance that you're not even going to try to look for alternatives. That's thinking thinking. You're not even giving much thought to it. You're just accepting it. Examine it. As I mentioned before, sometimes the alcoholic did not make a decision to change until they hit their bottom. And like I said, we all have our bottoms, and they realized that their thinking and their habits had to change if their lives were going to be changed. What are you thinking now that has to be changed for you to make that change in your life, for you to begin that transformation? What is your bottom? That's my question to you. What has happened or what is happening or what has to happen to convince you that you must change your thinking, your stinking thinking? Yes, we all have it, in order to create a new and a more positive reality. What is your bottom? What has happened? What is happening? Or what has to happen for you to hit that bottom so that you can begin to change your thinking, change your thoughts, to have a better life and to create a more positive life for yourself, because you are the designer. As I've mentioned previously, our lives are the results of all the thoughts that we've had, the sum of our thoughts. And to be more specific, I'll quote Buddha because that's where it came from. Buddha said, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. Just think about that. Just think about that. Our thoughts are what we create. We create our thoughts, and we reinforce them with the actions that we take based on what we think. What kind of life have you created by your thoughts? I have to think about that. What thoughts, what life am I creating for myself with my thoughts? Who have you become, or who are you becoming as a result of your thinking? Because that's at the root of who we are. What are you thinking? Who have you become? Or who are you becoming? And that's a question of hope, because we're always becoming. We just stop becoming when we die. Because even when we don't do anything, we're becoming what we maybe don't want to become. We become stagnant. We recede. We don't grow. That's becoming something also, but on the negative side, unfortunately. But since we're always becoming, there's always an opportunity to change our lives, to change the trajectory of our lives. And it starts with our thoughts. So remember that we are not defined by our circumstances, but we are defined by how we interpret our circumstances and the actions that we take as a result of our thoughts. So our thoughts are our superpower. Yeah, we can say we're supermen, we're superwomen, we're superhumans, because we have the ability to think. And we have the ability to design our lives based on our thinking. It's as simple as that. And I say simple with a laugh, with a smile, because it's a simple statement, but it takes work. It takes work. It takes daily work. And sometimes we feel like giving up. And we would rather just, let whatever go through our minds without even thinking about it. And I'm not saying that you have to have a sad or a grumpy life because I'm just thinking all the time, but make it a habit to just check in with your thoughts. Why are you getting the results that you're getting? If they're good, fine. It's still good to know what's helping you to get good results, because then success breeds success. You want to continue being successful. And if it's the opposite way, if you're not getting where you want to go, then you really, really have to examine your thoughts and how are they influencing your action. Because remember, as I think, so I feel. As I feel, so I do. And as I do, so are my results. So it's think first, feel, do, and then have. So what are you thinking that's causing you to feel the way you're feeling? And what are you feeling that causes you to act in the way you're acting? And the results that you have, think about them as the results of your behavior, of your actions. So think, feel, do, and you have. Just remember our Thinking Tuesday motto. Your mind is a garden. I didn't forget that. Your mind is a garden, and your thoughts are the seeds. You can grow flowers or you can grow weeds. You have a choice. It's time to decide to get rid of those weeds, which is your stinking thinking that have been robbing you of pursuing your dreams, that you may have given up on or that you might have put on the shelf. That stinking thinking are those weeds that keep you from living the life that you deserve. And you deserve more. So start today. Start today. It's never too late to start. And I always say it's never too late to make a U-turn, right? We don't have to keep going in the same direction even when it's not serving us. So start today by examining your thinking and deciding if it is serving you well. If it's serving you well, kudos to you. That's great. But there are always parts of our thinking that may not be taking us in the best direction for what is available to us, what we want to achieve. So we should always be thinking of our, examining our thinking. Recognize that your stinking thinking is getting you to a negative place, and begin to replace it with positive thinking. If you need someplace to start, because sometimes we're so much in that negative thought pattern that we don't know where to start, find a friend, a loved one, a coworker, someone who can help you to begin to really examine your thinking. Find a coach like me. Find a psychotherapist like me. Find someone that you trust, that you can use as a thinking partner, because we are built very, very well to the point where many times we justify even the negative things that impact us. So we have blind spots. That's why we have, the rear view mirror. That's why we have the two mirrors on, excuse me, on the side of our car, because they're blind spots. We do have those. Go into that another time, but we do have that. Don't be too quick. Don't be too quick to say, it is what it is. Take that out of your vocabulary. There are things that we can't control, and we need to know what our limits are, right? But don't be too quick to say it is what it is, because it is not. It is not always what it is. It's what you deem it to be. It's how you interpret it to be. It is what you make it. And it begins with your thinking. So before you utter those words again, think very carefully. Is it really what it is? Because oftentimes it's not. And it begins with your thinking and how you interpret what you see. So make today the beginning of the end of your stinking thinking, and the beginning of the transformation of your thinking to positive thinking, probably with the help of someone. You are the gardener. You are the gardener, and you decide what you want to plant and what you want to cultivate. You are the designer. You have all the control as to what you harbor in your mind, what you cultivate, what you allow to come into your mind, that precious space that you have. So I hope this has been of value to you, and if it has been, please share it with someone who can also benefit from it. As I always remind you, this will be stored with my other Thinking Tuesday messages on my YouTube channel, Thinking Tuesday, Cheryl Burton. Go back and review some of them. Like my messages so that I can continue to bring them on my YouTube channel. Also, please visit my website. There are several programs and services that help you design your life, get the results that you want, understand yourself better, communicate better. There are a whole host of programs and services that I offer. And if you don't see something that you want, don't be afraid to reach out to me. You can reach out to me via my website, drcherylburton.com, and I would be happy to listen to what your desires are and try to create something that meets your need, because all of my programs and services are crafted to meet the needs of my client, because there's no cookie cutter solution for everyone. Everyone is unique, and some things might work for one person and some things might not work for another person. But there's always some way to help you meet your needs. I do want to remind you that I can be booked for speaking engagements through my website also, as well as a complimentary, confidential consultation. If you need someone to help you think through some challenge that you're going through, or decide what path you want to take. Whatever it is, feel free. I can offer you a confidential complimentary consultation to help you get started. You can also uh, contact me if you'd like to begin coaching. Sometimes we feel that we could talk to a friend or we can talk to a family member, and that's good also. But when we're really trying to make changes in our lives, we need someone who can be objective, someone who's trained, and someone who has several approaches to help you look at the best one for you so that you can attain what it is that you're trying to attain. So it's been a pleasure for me speaking to you again today, sharing this message. Check your thinking. Check your thinking. Just as you think, you check your physical self, check your mental self as well. Check your thinking. So I'll see you next Tuesday at noon for another message on Thinking Tuesday. So take care and have a wonderful week. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.